Hello mofos, and I'm back with a video entirely different to anything I've done before, looking at a couple of books that I've got. These are, they're called lithograph, no that's the name of the print, monographs or something. It's a good start, isn't it? I don't even know what they're called. They're photo books. They're glossy, full colour photo books. The first one I'm going to show you is called City of Darkness, Life in Kowloon Walled City, and I might have mentioned this on a previous video. This is the place in Hong Kong, and it is the location of the Kowloon level in Shenmue 2, which is one of my favourite video games. Now, I've actually been to Hong Kong in the last 10 years, and it wasn't there. They demolished it in the 90s to make way for a park, which is very disappointing because this thing is an absolute legend. It's a complete one-off. This is an aerial view of the walled city. This bit around the outside, I'm not sure if this is a great shot of it, it's probably better. This bit around the outside has already been cleared. There used to be squatters' slums all around the outside of this. Spreading out in a low canopy to the south and west are the tin shacks of the Sai Tao Tsen squatter settlement, which was not cleared until 1985. So that's what I was telling you about at the beginning. Look at that. So you'd never see it like this, kind of naked if you like. It was dressed in this kind of outer layer. And the book is amazing because it shows you all these photographs of, in my view, quite dignified, were certainly a dignified people who were living there, hard-working people. That's a lovely photograph, that, with these balconies which were largely covered up, where they sort of hung out washing and stuff. But those are the lucky ones that got to have a flat actually facing the outside, because the vast majority of people, such as this gentleman by the looks of it, lived in apartments with no windows or no external walls. They were entirely hemmed in on every single side. These two shots here show you the main walkway, one of the main walkways, which again is completely undercover. It's got utility wires and stuff going along there in a higgledy-piggledy fashion. There's a factory, some kind of factory unit there, and probably someone's house there, and then that one there, very similar. It's no natural light whatsoever. It's a street inside a building, and if you've played Shenmue 2, you'll have found those very bizarre atmospheres where you walk into an enormous building and you walk between kind of sectors in the building without, you go from one building to another without ever exiting into the open air. You've got here a dentist, and this book is fascinating because it tells a little life stories, if you like, of the inhabitants, the sorts of things they do, little stories. That's one of the few water sources, and one of the things about the walled city is that it was ridden with crime, and for many years in the 70s and 80s, until it was demolished, it was really run by the triads, because there was a big heroin problem in the walled city, and the triads had a grip there, so there was a bit of organised crime. And the water, along with other utilities, some of it was tapped, so you'd have people like this gentleman who had a water source under his floor, and he would collect monthly charges personally from his customers. But he was probably a good guy. He was charging people for water even though he tapped it himself. Other people were probably not so nice, notwithstanding the heroin problems and whatever, because obviously it was a lawless encampment. Most of the people who lived there worked bloody hard. They were in fact in quite squalid, difficult conditions, but somehow sort of making a living. Lovely photographs. And there, a really clean chemist shop. Cafes. So great book. Oh, lovely there. It's a bit of really disgusting. That's horrible. Some animals, pigs being slaughtered. So yeah, all sorts of weird stuff going on there. Rubber factories, noodle factories. And yeah, going back to what I was just saying, this is the courtyard, by the way, the bit that's outdoors. You can see it's an old, not sure what era it is. Yeah, there was no law in the walled city because it from historic reasons, it was a bizarre bit of territory that there were like I can't remember all the history, but for some reason, when the Japanese invaded in the 40s, there was some kind of rebellion and they couldn't invade the walled city, so it was held by the Chinese. But then when the British came along and held Hong Kong as a colony, just after that, they also didn't make it into the walled city either, and there were a number of battles, I think, between the British and the Chinese around there, so the British just left it alone. So it was on no man's land, and it basically meant that whoever was trading or living in the walled city wasn't paying rent, so they weren't paying charges, they weren't paying tax, and they weren't subject to all the other regulations. And one of the things that happened was that because of no regulations, people would build these kind of concrete chambers, again, you know, reflected in the atmosphere of Shenmue Kowloon level.